Beneath millions of tons of shifting Saharan sand, the physical remains of an ancient world are slowly being reclaimed by the wind. For centuries, nomadic tribes have described Zerzura, the Oasis of Little Birds. It is a city built of pure white stone that reveals itself only when the desert winds shift in a specific direction. During the 13th century, while European empires were building fleets to conquer the oceans, the indigenous nomads of the Sahara looked inland. They sought a way to navigate an ocean of sand. In a landscape where surface temperatures reach 120 degrees, Zerzura was a calculated necessity, a place where life could persist when the surrounding desert offered only death. Unlike European exploration myths like El Dorado, the legend of the White City mentions no gold or silver. There is no mention of a treasure room or a wealthy king. The actual value of Zerzura lay in its resources: deep, reliable wells, the dense shade of palm groves, and a cache of knowledge preserved by a society that the rise and fall of empires never reached. History is filled with expeditions financed by a monarch's greed. The search for Zerzura stands apart because it was propelled by the simplest biological imperative: the human requirement for water. The primary record of this city appeared in the 15th century within the pages of the Kitab al-Kanuz, or the Book of Hidden Pearls. The text provided directions in the form of riddles, specifying walls of white stone and a heavy gate that required a specific ritual to open. It claimed the city was guarded by a tall, blue-eyed population that lived in total isolation. These written claims turned a nomadic rumor into a geographical obsession. Entire caravans organized expeditions, pushing hundreds of miles into the unexplored regions of the Libyan Desert to locate the landmarks described in the book. The Kitab al-Kanuz provided the necessary legitimacy to move Zerzura from the realm of folklore into a target for active, organized exploration. But as the centuries passed, the regional climate shifted. The Sahara grew increasingly dry, transforming the territory around the supposed oasis into an impassable landscape. This map shows the Great Sand Sea, a continuous expanse of dunes covering an area roughly the size of France, which makes any traditional search effort physically impossible. These dunes are not static. They migrate constantly with the wind, moving across the landscape over hundreds of years. This process physically erased the ancient trade routes and covered any potential paths leading to the city. The shifting geography acted as a physical barrier, burying any potential ruins under a moving, miles-thick layer of sediment that makes discovery nearly impossible. Over time, Zerzura became a psychological weight for those lost in the desert. Explorers suffering from extreme dehydration would report seeing the gleaming white walls on the horizon, only for the image to vanish as they approached. The surface heat of the desert creates intense optical illusions. Thermal layers bend light to create shimmering projections that can perfectly mimic the flowing water and white stones described in the original legends. This raises a difficult question. Was the Oasis of Little Birds a real civilization that was simply buried by a changing climate? Or was it always a collective hallucination born from a dying mind's need for water? To this day, every attempt to locate physical ruins on the ground has been defeated by the sheer scale of the dunes. By the 1930s, a new generation of explorers realized they couldn't find the city by walking. They traded their camels for airplanes and took to the skies to outsmart the desert's illusions. Aerial surveys strip away the heat shimmer. Flying hundreds of feet above the surface allows for a perspective that was impossible for medieval travelers, revealing the true geometry of the dunes from above. Yet, even with modern technology, the truth remains obscured. The Sahara continues to protect the location of the White City, leaving the mystery buried until a future era of explorers can finally reach it. Before we mapped the Earth in high definition from silent, sterile satellites, we threw canvas and wood at the sky and hoped for the best. For 700 years, explorers chased a specific, intoxicating rumor: Zerzura. Folklore described a gleaming white city of endless wealth, hidden inside an oasis of little birds.
Finding it required navigating an uncharted, lethal ocean of sand. For centuries, the vast interior of the Sahara swallowed anyone who dared to look. That stalemate broke in 1932. A group of wealthy, obsessed adventurers, calling themselves the Zerzura Club, led by the infamous László Almásy, decided to force the desert to give up its secrets. To bypass the deadly overland routes, they relied on the absolute bleeding-edge technology of their day, Ford Model Ts and open cockpit biplanes like the one in this photo. Their target was the Gilf Kebir Plateau, a massive, completely unmapped geographic void in southwestern Egypt. The mission eventually unburied a different kind of ghost, the physical remains of a lost climate. Scouting deep, narrow desert canyons from an open cockpit requires flying violently close to the ground, battling erratic thermals and blinding dust. The physical risk yielded a massive victory. Almásy's team spotted 3 hidden green valleys tucked deep within the canyon walls, matching the ancient text's descriptions of the lost oases perfectly. Yet, as they scoured the valleys on foot, they found absolutely zero trace of a fabled white city. Instead, Almásy stumbled into a shallow cavern that held something far older, the Cave of Swimmers. Look closely at this rock wall. These prehistoric etchings clearly depict giraffes, African wildlife, and humans interacting in what appears to be a lush, water-rich environment. A thriving savanna ecosystem cannot exist in a hyper-arid desert. This art proved they had stumbled upon irrefutable evidence of a completely lost world. Scientists identify this specific prehistoric era as the Green Sahara. In this map of North Africa, a climatic shift forced massive ecological collapse. The extensive network of blue lakes and green vegetation dried up, replaced by desert sands. Before collapsing, this environment provided the surplus needed to support large populations and early civilizations. When the climate broke, that ancient ecosystem didn't evaporate. It was physically entombed beneath billions of tons of sand. To solve the myth of Zerzura, humanity had to realize they were looking in the wrong dimension. They had to stop searching for a city built on top of the dunes and invent the tools to look straight through them. Shovels and canvas biplanes are completely useless against a burial site of this magnitude. The hunt had to leave the atmosphere. Modern archaeologists conduct the search from orbit, using high-altitude satellite imaging and sophisticated sensors to scan the Sahara from space. Specifically, they use ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. By firing microwave pulses down at the Earth, GPR allows scientists to peel back the top layer of the desert and read the dense, hidden bedrock miles below. This cross-section shows how those radar waves reflect back to the surface. They map out massive, dormant underground water systems known as paleo-rivers. GPR scans have also revealed the literal footprints of megalithic structures along these dead rivers, physical evidence of a society that vanished as the climate turned. By identifying these sites, we bridge the gap between medieval legend and prehistoric reality. These stories likely traveled through millennia of oral history, passed down by ancient cultures who remembered the water long after it was buried by sand. Look at the sheer scale of this landscape. The fearsome giants guarding the gates in the ancient texts were the impassable sand dunes themselves. Modern technology finally unmasks the fairy tale. It is a massive ecological tombstone, preserving a forgotten world hidden in plain sight, while the desert holds its breath.